Style Nicky G here. So I found this great app called GMD Gestures, and it does require root on your phone, but in case you're wondering what root is, because I know some people ask that sometimes, it's basically like jailbreaking your phone. It voids your warranty, but it gives you access to anything you want to do to your phone, including destroy it. So if you do it, be careful. I learned that the hard way the first time. So anyway, this app is awesome. It's called GMD Gestures, and I want to show you a little bit about it, the things that it can do. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can go to your Google browser on your phone and type in GMD Gestures APK and download the APK for free off the internet. So don't do that. Make sure you go to the Google Play Market and purchase it. This way you can support the developer. Alright, so as you can see here, we have some couple different gestures that they show. I have these turned off. I'm not using them. You can create your own gestures with this, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But I want to show you a couple of these gestures. As you can see, if you do these specific actions, how you see here, one is rolling your finger down and out, and you notice there's dividers that are done with red dashes. That just shows there's different start zones, and I'm going to tell you all about this stuff. Now, another thing I want to show you, up at the top here where it says phone, you can touch that and change it to tablet. So yes, you can use this on a tablet as well. And now I'm going to show you how the gestures have changed a little bit. For instance, as you can see, the arrows, that means you're taking 4 fingers and you're swiping out with them, 3 fingers up, 4 fingers in. There's a couple other ones on here too. Now, up at the top here, right underneath the phone and tablet option, it gives you the option to disable while keyboard is on screen. So now this app basically creates gestures that you can use anywhere in anything on your phone. So you could be surfing on the internet and go ahead and activate one of your gestures. You can be in an app playing a game and activate one of your gestures, or you can be in your text messages sending a text message, and when you're on your keyboard doing swipe, you can accidentally activate a gesture if you draw it out with the swipe. So this gives you the option to disable while the keyboard is on screen. So when your keyboard comes up, this app will be disabled from any gestures coming up. Now, when I go to the second option up here where it says custom gestures, okay, it gives you the option here to create gestures. And as you can see, I have some gestures on here already. For instance, the first one underneath the TT in the blue, it says 2, colon, and then it says tap times 2. So what that means is with 2 fingers, I tap my screen twice and it'll activate my calculator. Below it, you see tap, well actually I named it TTT, but it says 1, and then it says tap times 3, which means with 1 finger I tap 3 times and it activates my gesture shortcuts application. Now underneath that it says pause GMD. Now you can actually create a gesture to pause this app. This way, let's say if you're playing a game like Candy Crush or something like that, where you're swiping your fingers back and forth and touching different things, you can actually create a gesture to pause this application. This way, while you're in that game playing it, you won't accidentally activate any gestures, and you can always unpause it by just doing the gesture again. When you pause the gesture, actually when the gesture is paused, that P right there with the circle actually appears up in the top left of your phone. You don't see it on mine because I actually have it turned off through another rooted app. So it'll show, and you'll know when it's paused, so you can just unpause it and use your gestures again. But I want to go ahead and show you how to create a gesture here. So let's go to create gestures. Now the first thing it gives you is the option to enable the gesture so it's active. The second thing is active during GMD pause. So in other words, even though you pause this application and no gestures can be used, you can create a few gestures. You can create as many gestures as you want actually, that will be active. So even though it's paused and all the gestures aren't working, there will be a few that do work, whichever ones you choose to continue to work even though the application is paused. And then of course, disable while keyboard is on screen. Here's your option again to disable your gestures. This way when the keyboard comes up, you don't accidentally activate it. Now, first thing it asks you to do is type in the name of the gesture, so you can name it whatever you want. The next thing it says is gesture path. Now, underneath that is where you would enter basically the activation for the gesture. Let me show you. I'll hit the question mark here, and I hope you can see this. It says, enter the first letter, any case, of direction path separated with a dash or other separator, comma, or semicolon, and it gives you an example. And down here, it gives you the directions of what to do. So let's see if I can bring them all on here for you so you can see them all. All right. So the first one you got is left, right, up, down. Okay. So for instance, let's say you wanted to create a gesture that was a square on your phone. Well, then you would call the gesture, let's say we'll go up first. So you would call it up, and then you put a U, and then a comma, and then you put an R, and then a comma, and then you put a D, and then a comma, and then you put an L and a comma, and that would draw a square, and that would activate the gesture. Now you have angles too. So for instance, let's say I wanted to draw a, I don't know how to, let's say a gesture that went up and then to the corner of my phone. So then I would put U, comma, and then I put UR. That would mean up and then up and right, which would give you that diagonal. Below that you have pinch. So you can basically set how many fingers you want to use this with. You can pinch it with 3 fingers, 2 fingers. These gestures, you can set it so you need 2 fingers to draw out the gesture. This way you don't accidentally do it with 1 finger. So you won't even have to pause it during your keyboard if you have, for instance, a 2 or 3 or 4 finger gesture, or even 5, because obviously you're not going to use that many fingers on your keyboard. You use 1 at a time. So then you have the taps, you have the holds, you have the rotating clockwise, rotating counterclockwise, and then it'll have touch points. This is basically how many fingers for the gesture. So over here, it gives you the option for up to 5. You can use up to 5 fingers to create your gestures. Now, starting zone, okay? Now here's where you get into how to activate the gesture. Let me open that, there you go. Alright, if you can see this, it gives you a bunch of options of where you would initially put your finger to start creating the gesture. So for instance, you have anywhere on the screen, you have just the top half of the screen, just the bottom half, just the left border, just the left top corner, and it goes, there's a whole bunch of them in here. So you choose that, and then you select an action, and you can use actions such as starting apps or shortcuts, and it gets even better. It doesn't even stop there. You have Launchpad too, okay? Now Launchpad is pretty cool because you basically, if you notice at the top of the screen, it says, you see this little blue border around select Launchpad, settings are applied only to selected Launchpad, center Launchpad, okay? That little square, you can actually create that to come up on your screen when you do a gesture, and you can have apps in it, you can have whatever you need in it, websites. Basically, if you wanted to, you could create your user interface so it was only 1 window instead of 3 or 5 or 7, and basically do all these gestures to activate all your apps. So for instance, I can create a Launchpad this way when I can fill it with, let's say, my games. And when I'm on my screen, or actually in any app, anywhere I want, let's say I created a gesture to go a square, I can draw a square, it would activate this box, the box would pop up, it would have all the applications for my games in it, and then I could choose it. So basically it's like creating a folder, making a folder appear with gestures. You can choose the size of the icons, the size of the label, the size of the Launchpad. You can even make a theme out of it. So that's great. Then you got Blacklist, okay? Now, the Blacklist is another thing that you need to know about when using this app. Okay? These are basically applications that when you are in these applications, it will pause this application. So, instead of going into my games, and let's say I'm playing a game and I'm going to keep activating a gesture because I'm tapping my phone a bunch of times, I can put the game. I can either pause GMD gesture. I can create a, like I did, like you saw before. You can create a shortcut or a gesture that when you enter the gesture, it'll pause this application. This way, it won't be active, and no other gestures will be activated unless you have them to be activated during the pause. Or you could just come over to here, put the application into here, and this way, when you go into the application, it automatically pauses this application, and then when you exit the application, this one unpauses and goes back to normal. So that's another great thing about this. Then you got your settings. There's a bunch of different things here. I would, did you see this? I'm not sure if you saw this. There you go. Oh, another thing, where it says apps that, pause gestures, okay? There's other options in here too, that ignore starting zones, hide the status bar, and exclude from previous next app. Okay, now I tried using this for hiding a status bar, and my phone wasn't really agreeing with it. So I have a Galaxy S3, maybe yours might work differently. It all depends. Alright, let's go into our settings. Now here you just got a bunch of settings, okay? You can look through this, you can just decide what you want to do. You got vibration on gestures, you can turn that on. All different kinds of different things in here. Now over here, okay, this is the touch consumption. Other applications like multi-touch games will not receive multi-touch events if these settings are turned on. So, there's a bunch of different things you can tweak out of here. You can go ahead and look through that. Down here you have you can choose the starting zones that you want not to consume the touch events. There's just tons of them in here. Look through them. And then you move over to advanced. Okay, here's even more options. And let me see, is this the, yes, I believe this is where people have set the developer opinions, and I think that he added these to the app. That's what the advanced is. So as you can see, there's some different things in here. There's all different kinds of stuff in here. I haven't even gone through everything. You can even restart the service from here. And then of course there's always help if you have any questions and whatnot. Alright, so that's GMD Gestures. Now let me show you how it works. So I'll go back to my my main screen here. Okay. Now I have it set for calculators tap times 3. So if I tap my phone 3 times, oh wait, I'm sorry. That's for my my shortcuts. I tap it 3 times, it brings up my shortcuts. I can go ahead and draw whatever shortcut I need to take me to wherever. Well, actually, I don't even need this application now that I have the gesture thing. Now, I want to activate my calculator, so it says to tap twice. If I tap twice, there we go. If I tap twice, nothing happens because I have to use 2 fingers. So if I take 2 fingers and tap twice, then my calculator comes up. Alright, let's see. My Google goggles, okay? I have it, so if I start from the bottom of my screen down here where you see the phone icon, if I actually draw a square around that, without, not a complete square, but you know, the up, the to the right, and the down, it'll activate my goggles, and I'll show you. Up, over, down. Ready? Wait a minute. Alright, there we go. So, you can see what this thing can do, and I'll even show you, for instance, let's say you are over here in your Google browser, and I tap 3 times. Oh wait, I must have it shut off for this. What's an application that I don't have it paused in? Let's see. Alright, let me go into one of my games, and I'll show you, for instance, how this works. Go into Minesweeper here. Alright. So here I am. I'm in a game, okay? Now I want to activate a gesture while I'm in the middle of my game. So I want to go somewhere on my phone. I'm going to tap my phone 3 times, okay? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's right. I turned it off in here. Alright, I'll find an application in here I don't have it turned off. Let's see, there's got to be something. Man. You see, I mean, you could customize this thing so much. Alright, here we go. Dragon Ball database. I know I don't have it in here. Alright, so I'm going to tap my phone 3 times right in the middle of me being in another app. And there you go. It activates the gesture. Okay, let's try the keyboard. Ready? 1, 2. Double taps. There you go. There's my keyboard. So these gestures are literally active. You can activate them from anywhere at any time, unless you have it otherwise in the settings. So there's another great app. It's the Tao Style Nikki G. Go ahead and download that app and check it out. It's an awesome app. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with it. Just be careful not to make too many gestures that overlap each other, so you're activating different things when you're doing other things. And no matter how much the app annoys you, remember, you can critique it so it does not bother you, so you can use it properly. Alright, so there's another great app. Enjoy it.